So we're here doing another story of encounter, and I love these parts of our church service because we discovered that our journey with Jesus is an ongoing journey of spiritual transformation that has turning points on them, and those turning points, whether they're events or deeper understanding, whatever, leads to a deepening friendship with Jesus, resulting in a more profound dependency on him for life, which is reflected in a growing obedience to him. And Jay is going to talk a little bit about some turning points in his life. But Jay, just to start us off, would you just tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, your background?
Cool. So my name is Jay. I'm from Brazil. So I grew up in church. My father is a pastor. My grandfather is a pastor. My father-in-law is a pastor, and my grandfather-in-law also is a pastor.
Wow.
So I come from a long Christian lineage of people that are believers and followers of Jesus, which is, to be honest, a huge privilege. So I grew up on a Christian home and went to church every Sunday, and yeah, like I had a few experiences with Jesus growing up, and yeah, that's it.
Cool. Now, you're from Brazil.
Yep.
And when you arrived here in Dublin Vineyard, God began, if you like, a new season, or began to take you in a next step on your spiritual journey. Like, tell us, what did he do, or what happened?
There was like two main things that I can remember, that there were like very strong and very deep transformations that God did in my life and my wife's life as well. And the first was like dependency, which was a big thing, and it's an ongoing theme for us. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, as I said, we grew up in church. We always had our parents nearby. I was in the church that my dad was the pastor, so I always had that like support, whatever I needed. We had the support of our families around us and friends, and taking this step and moving abroad was a step that we knew that would be challenging, but we had no idea really. Is it the type of thing that this is going to be hard, but it actually is harder than you thought. And I think we learned a lot about dependency, and I think there was a big, deep transformation that God started working in us through like various experiences, that we thought we had it covered, and actually we didn't. And then God showed up, and we learned that actually, God is in control, and we have to surrender every day. And the second big thing was the whole journey through the grace. And as I said before, I grew up in church, as did my wife, but we didn't really experience grace the way we started experiencing here, and understanding what grace really means, and experiencing on our everyday lives. So these two main things.
Like, in a sense, because you would have always known about grace. So, like, what was different?
What was different? I think it's the fundamental way that we related to God, I think. Because for me especially, I always had put too much of my value on the stuff that I did. So let's say, I'm really good Christian because I go to church every Sunday. I'm really good Christian because I play in the worship band, and I end up do this and this and that. And what I felt really was that what changed, and I could only see, and I'm starting to see actually this now, and even clearer, like a little bit every day, that it was a lot about me and what I was doing and what I wasn't doing, where I was succeeding and not, and failing. But actually our lives and the gospel is about Jesus and what he does and what he provides to us, and and the love and the salvation and the care that he gives to us, more than what we give to him.
And how would you describe your experience of the Christian life now, or like what more do you have, or what different do you have now? What are you experiencing in the Christian life?
I think now, for me, I feel lighter, if that makes any sense, when I approach God, because one of the consequences of having everything being about you and what you do and what you don't do, what you fail and what you succeed, is that there's a lot of guilt and shame attached to it. So every time that you miss the mark, you feel guilty and you feel ashamed. And sometimes it happened to me like a dozen times. I didn't even feel that I deserved to pray, because I was so ashamed. I felt so guilty that I didn't even want to pray, because God won't even bother listening to me. I'm a failure. And I think what changed is that now I know that whatever happens, and I keep failing, and I keep sometimes doing things that I didn't want to do. But now I feel that I can approach God regardless. Actually, I should run towards Him on those moments, because I know that He's ready to love me. He's ready to work on me. Not that He's pleased with my failures, but it's that He understands where I'm at, and He wants to get me where He wants me to be. So I think that was the main thing that I can say, that this whole experience, I just feel lighter around God.
Good. Lighter is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, lighter is good. So just like one final thing, like what would you, because in a sense, like those of us who've gone to church for a long time, we talk about grace all the time. We know it, or to a degree. So what would you say to someone who hears what you're saying and thinks, I know this already?
Yeah. Well, I thought I knew this already.
You were one of those people.
Yeah, I was one of those people. I always, when people ask me, what is grace? And I used to say, it's an undeserved favor, right? And you kind of have this, and it's almost a jargon, right? And you memorize, but you don't really understand what it actually means. What it means is, like, it doesn't matter what you do, what you bring. What God has for us is not a response to what we are giving Him, but it's what He is. And actually, we are the ones who respond to what He is doing. Yeah. So if it wasn't for God's grace, we wouldn't be anywhere. We would be nowhere, because we need His love, His kindness, and His grace over our lives. Mm-hmm. So what I say is, really try to understand what grace means, not just as a jargon, as I did, because that was my own experience, but really understand the implications of what the words actually mean and what they bring to a practical level to our lives. So at least that was my journey on this, and how I came to understand it.
So really what you're saying is you got a much deeper understanding of a truth that you had known some about, but your understanding went so much deeper, and that had a profound turning point change in your life.
Yeah, exactly. It was an experience-led understanding, not an intellectual understanding, if it makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, Jay, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your story. And just very quickly, you were a proud dad. And you
Yes, I am. For my pretty little boy, Oscar.
Jay, thanks for sharing your story. We'll now continue with the rest of the church service.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.